Hello and welcome. It's Tuesday at 2 o'clock. It's Transformation Tuesday. If this is your first time joining me, please introduce yourself in the comments. I would love to meet you. If this is not your first time joining me, then let me know that you're here. I'd love to say hello. And if you are catching this on the replay, then just let me know by commenting replay down just so I can know that you saw it. So, it's Transformation Tuesday. And we are talking about 3 thoughts on freedom. If you saw my post earlier, then you saw that. Okay. So I can't see any comments. So if you're commenting and I'm not responding, it's because I can't see it. So I apologize. All right. So if you, as you're jumping on, if you can comment, then that way I'll know that you can see this, and that would be awesome. But so this is the third Transformation Tuesday. The other 2 were over on Instagram, and I thought they were transferring over, but I guess they weren't. But I went ahead and I posted them so you can go back and catch them if you would so desire. And also I referenced it a little bit, so it'll just kind of make more sense and just give more context to what I'm talking about. So today, 3 thoughts on freedom. But before we get started, I want to ask you, so if you did see those, I really wish I could see comments, but I can't. I had asked you to think about moments in your life when you had a moment of transformation, a moment that you knew that something was different within you and that there was something that was calling you forward and your life would not be the same because of it. Even if in that moment you didn't recognize it as being that big of a moment, in hindsight, you know exactly what it was, and you know exactly it was a moment where your path turned a little bit. So that's what this is all about. So I want to keep that in your forefront because I want you to be thinking about those moments. I see somebody here, and if you're here, will you at least just say hi so I can see comments, because I can't see any comments right now. But so keep that in the forefront of your mind. Where have I had those moments of transformation where I have not been the same since? So of course, as always, I'm going to share one with you. And then we'll go into freedom. So and secondly, my favorite emoji is the white heart, and my second favorite emoji is the fire flame. So if any of this resonates with you and or connects with you, or you thought it was a really good comment or really good insight, then throw me a white heart and or throw me the flame. So that's fire for you. All right. I have my notes so I don't forget anything. Okay. So it was about, again, 20 years ago, and all of this started to take shape and to play out a little bit. I was sitting in a building on a Sunday morning, and there was a man in front, and he made a comment that forever changed my perception on myself, and I know forever changed the path that I was going on. And I'm so incredibly grateful. It's possible that you have heard something very similar, and maybe you haven't. And if you haven't, then I hope is the day that you hear it for yourself the way I heard it 20 years ago. So what this man said was, again, context. I'm sitting in a building on a Sunday morning, and the man in front says, "It is for freedom that you have been set free. It is for freedom that you have been set free." When he said this, right here, I can remember this like it was yesterday, right here, there was a release and a relief, and I felt my whole body relax. And it was as if just a big exhale had happened, and there was a relief. Again, if you've seen any of those other 2 videos, I referenced in the prayer in a moment video that there wasn't anything that I was doing in my life at that time. Like there isn't anything that I was doing that would have been worthy of and or qualified for, like that moment that I had when I was back home. That's kind of the point, right? There wasn't anything that I was doing that was worthy of and or earned a moment like that. But again, I had a moment This moment that happened in that building on that Sunday morning was before that tragic moment. And I really honestly believe that the moment that I heard "it's for freedom that you've been set free" was one of the moments that set me up to hear that voice that said, "make me a part of your life." This was a precursor to that moment. So let's go there a little bit. So it's for freedom that you've been set free. Remember, I had mentioned that there wasn't anything that I was doing in my life that was worthy of and or qualified for and or would give anybody the impression that I cared if there was a right or a wrong way to be living. And when the man said that, I didn't even know there was something inside of me that needed to be let go of, that needed to be released, and that would be a relief to do so. Never would have imagined that. But when he did, here's what was the freedom part. So what was let go in that moment that I wasn't even aware that I was carrying, that I was holding, was shame and guilt and a whole lot of self-condemnation. And I wasn't even aware of it. It was as if there was this lens or filter that I could not see through. But when he said that, like, that was gone. And I realized that I'd been carrying that around. And it was so good just to get rid of that. So which brings me to my 3 thoughts on freedom. The first 2 have been acquired and really kind of shaped over the past 20 years since the prayer in the moment and since this moment of freedom. And then the third one was something that I heard somebody else say, and I want to be sure to give that man credit when I go there. So the first one is freedom from. You can have freedom from something and or someone if it's an unhealthy or toxic relationship. So in this specific instance, it was freedom from guilt, shame, self-condemnation, and I wasn't even aware that that was what was in there, but I felt it go that day. And then you can have freedom to do something. In this case, it would be freedom to feel something different from the shame, the guilt, the condemnation. So if you're going to lay down the one, you need to pick up the other, or else you'll go right back to that one. So the freedom to be free from guilt, the freedom to have a different perception of myself, the freedom to understand that that was not somebody else's perception of me. It may have been the perception of other people around me, but it was not the perception of the one person who was speaking to me. And the one person speaking to me was not the man at the front of the room. What the man at the front of the room was saying was the perception of somebody else. That was not his perception of me. So again, it's the freedom from, and this could be so much bigger than just a feeling. This can be freedom from addiction, freedom from fear, freedom from guilt, if there is something that has happened that we have done that would, make us feel guilty. We can still have freedom from that. Even if we should be feeling guilty about something, there's a way to rightfully not feel that way and still take accountability and responsibility for having done it. There's a freedom from a list of things that hold people back, hold people down, skew their perceptions of themselves. And then there's the freedom to. So once the bad is gone, what it's going to be, what's the good that's going to be replaced? Replace it with? What good? The joy, freedom to be somebody different. If it's a case from freedom from an addiction, what is going to be the new thought in the head that replaces the reason why or the thought why, or the feelings why, or all of the things associated with, like what's the new thing there that we can then think about and replace that with. And then the last one was this is not something that I can take credit for, but when I heard this, it made perfect sense. So I got this from a gentleman named Bob Hamp. He was teaching on a talk show, and I happened to be flipping through channels, and I listened to it, and this is what he said. And he had an explanation about like the freedom from as well. But he said freedom is also the presence of someone. So not only is freedom from something, not only is it freedom to then do something, but it is also the presence of someone. Again, in hindsight, even though there was definitely that physiological change that I had in my body when I heard that comment from the man up front, I know that the person who said that was the presence of someone who would be enabling me to have the freedom to make different decisions, the freedom to have a different perspective about myself, the freedom to have a different thought about what I thought would be possible for my future. It wasn't just the man at the front of the room, it was the person behind him that was saying it. It was the inspiration behind. It was the person inspiring him to say that at the moment that was calling me unto him. And several months later, there was that moment. And if you would like to know more about that moment, you can go back and watch A Prayer in a Moment, and I'll talk about the prayer in the moment in more detail. So I don't know if you've ever been somewhere in a building on a Sunday morning, or on a Wednesday night, or in your car listening to a talk show, where you've had that moment where a statement is made and you feel it in your body and you know that it was for you. Like, I know that statement was for me. It was for everybody in that room, but I know I felt it. I received it in that moment, and I took him up on that. I took him up on the freedom from the bad to the freedom to the good. Didn't happen for a couple more months, but when the timing was right, he made himself known, and I followed wholeheartedly. So those are my 3 thoughts on freedom today. I would love to know what your thoughts are about that. Do you have a similar experience? Where are your moments of transformation? Can you recall them as if it just happened? Can you capture that feeling? Can you recapture that feeling? Can you hang on to that? And can you see how it changed you and changed the direction that you were on? And if you so are inclined, I would love to know. I would love to hear those. Love to hear those moments. And if you are commenting and I am not responding, it's not because I don't want to, it's because I cannot see your comments. So, I'm swiping left and there's nothing. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you are here. I see you. I see the person in the back. I see you. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Please feel free to share with me those moments of transformation that you have had, and think about it throughout the week, and I will see you here again next week.